Hi guys, I'm Shayda, and in today's tutorial we're making this super sweet swan stamp. Say that 3 times fast. Stamp carving and printmaking is such a versatile craft, so with our swan stamp today, we'll be printing our own stationery and making a little beach bag. So let's get started. So the first thing I want to go over is how to take an image from the internet and make it into a stamp. So what we're going to do is I'm going to start on Google here, and I'm just going to type in something like swan graphic or swan vector, and I'm just looking for a royalty-free image, something that I can grab. So I've got my swan vectors here in Google Images, and you can see how these would make good stamps. They're these graphic, simplified black and white images, very easy to design and carve a stamp with. So I love that origami one, but I think I'm going to use this one here. So what I'll do is I'll just right click and I'll go down to save image as, and I'm just going to save it as swan, as a JPEG on my desktop. Now if I go to my desktop, you can see it's already sitting there, so it's on my computer. And I'm just going to open it up, open the file from my desktop, and then I'll go to print. And once I'm in my print menu, I just need to change the size. So I'll go to details and I'm going to scale it down, and I'll maybe scale it down to 20 or 30%. Alternatively, if you have an older print system and you don't have a scale option, you might click copies per page or images per page, and you could put 6 or 4, and that will scale your image down. So decide on the size you want your stamp to be. I've printed out 2 here at 20 and 30%. And then we're going to grab our stamp carving material. And stamp carving material like this lino sheet is available at art stores and craft stores, and it comes in different thicknesses. The thicker materials are really nice because you don't have to mount them on anything. They're really easy to hold when you're stamping. I'm going to be using this thinner lino sheet or stamp carving material today because it's just what I have. And then you're going to need a stamp carving tool or a lino cutter, and these are from Speedball. They're available again at art stores. You'll also need a little X-Acto knife and then some block printing ink. And I will link all these supplies in the description below. In order to print our stamp, you'll need a printing plate, which is basically just a piece of glass, and a soft rubber brayer, which we use to prepare the inking plate. And then you can print on anything you like. I'm going to try printing on this canvas bag, and I'm also going to make some stationery with the help of blank envelopes and cards. All right, so here's how we begin the stamp design and carving process. I'm going to take my printout and I'm going to just tape a piece of tracing paper on top so that it doesn't move, and then I'm going to trace the design. So this is really simple because those vectors and graphics, as I said, they're just these simple, high contrast black and white images, so really easy to trace. And then once you've traced your image, you can get rid of the printout. Now we're going to be working with that tracing paper. And here what I'm doing is I'm laying down a layer of graphite with my pencil in order to help me transfer my image. So I'm going to take my stamp carving material, and I'm going to place the trace design onto the stamp carving material. I'll tape it in place, flip it over, and then I'm going to transfer the reverse design onto my stamp carving material. Now you might be asking, why can't I use graphite transfer paper for that? And some of these stamp carving materials, the graphite transfer paper just doesn't transfer. So I just prefer to do it with pencil. And you can see there the image that has transferred is faint, but it's there, and then you can just go over it with a gel pen or a ballpoint pen because you don't want to be second guessing your design when you're carving. So do go over it with a pen, and then you're going to take your carving tool, and it looks like a little shovel-shaped blade, and you're just going to start shoveling out the stamp carving material. So you're just going to go in and make these long, smooth, shallow cuts. And this is not difficult, and a little bit of practice goes a long way. And these cutting tools are only about $10, I think, at most art stores, and they come with all 6 blades or cutting heads. And you can change up the heads, but I find for most of the stamp carving I do, I'm using the number 2 and 3. Number 1 is really small, and then from there they get really large. And you go all around the perimeter of your swan, and then you're going to do some detail, and then you're going to go back, and I like to cut out a lot around the perimeter of the image, and that's just so that when I go to cut out the stamp with my X-Acto knife, it just cuts out really easily. So here you can see me, I'm working on my cutting mat, and I'm just cutting away little bits of the stamp carving material or the linoleum. And so this is a little bit time consuming, but just go little by little, cutting away the pieces of the block until your stamp is free, and now you're ready to print. Okay, so here I've got my canvas beach bag, and I've got some block printing fabric ink from Speedball. This is ink you can use to print on fabric, and it'll clean up with water, but it is oil based. So after your product has cured for a few days, you can actually put your bag or your t-shirt or whatever into the washing machine, and it'll be totally fine. So I'm just running my rubber brayer over the paint in order to create a nice smooth surface of ink. And once I've got the ink nice and smooth, I'm going to do a test print. So I'll move my bag out of the way, and I'm going to lay down some ink on the stamp. So I'm running the brayer over the stamp in order to transfer a nice smooth layer of ink. And then I'm just going to do a test print. At this point, if you see any bits that aren't looking quite right, you can easily just grab your stamp carving tool and fix it up. No need to wash the paint off. You can make some little changes and then do another test print. I thought that looked great, so now I'm ready to print on my canvas bag. And you're going to see me make a little mistake here. I go to print on the bag, and I've forgotten to place a book or a piece of cardboard inside. So I'm just going to slide my sketchbook in there so that I'm printing on a nice flat surface. See the crease that happened there? That's because the book wasn't in place. So do put a nice hard surface inside of your bag or t-shirt or whatever you might be printing on if you're doing fabric printing. But now that the book's in there, you'll see I'll get a much smoother print on my second swan, and that looks fine. And it's not a big deal that there's a little crease, but just, do as I say, not as I do. Okay, so that's what the bag looks like. It's sort of a cute, funky little beach bag with the swans. And then I decided to add a few heart stamps. So I had a heart stamp handy. I've carved many stamps over the years, as I'm sure you guys know. And I'm just mixed a little red into my white ink to make a pretty pink. And I'm going to just flip that over and add a few graphic hearts to my swan print. And I had a little fun with it. I'm not sure if this was my most successful project ever, but it made like a cute grocery bag. So I don't know. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Do you love the swan bag? Do you hate it? I was much happier with the stationery that I made. So I had this package of brown craft paper envelopes and cards, all blank. And I just took my swan stamp as well as a triangle stamp, which is just a little triangle piece of stamp carving material. And I made these fun, graphic, punchy cards. And I think they'll be perfect for summer. They're just the right thing to send out as little blank note cards if I need to send a thank you or a get well or whatever. And I did some matching envelopes and cards, and some of the envelopes I just printed the triangle. And I mixed it up with some blue and some pink and of course the white swan. And please let me know what you guys think of the stationery as well. I was super happy with the way it turned out, and I hope you'll give this cute swan stamp a try. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, as usual, please don't hesitate to hit like and subscribe and leave a comment below.